This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
It's precisely 1:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Romesh Piris and read by Sabrina Zawahir. First, the headlines. The government issues a new Gazette Extraordinary on essential services. The High Commission of India denies reported attacks on a group of Sri Lankan fishermen by the Indian Navy. Highest number of infections found in Colombo yesterday amidst the vaccination drive. The Sri Lanka Navy clears debris washed ashore from the stricken Express Pearl vessel. The Indian High Commissioner meets Tamil National Alliance delegation. The Gazette declaring the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as a MP to be issued shortly. And in world news, the global COVID-19 death toll exceeds 4 million. And in sports news, World Test Championship final, New Zealand and India excited for historical final. Now the local news in detail. An extraordinary Gazette notification has been issued declaring services provided by any public corporation, government department, local authority, cooperative society or any of its branches as essential services during the period of travel restrictions. The Extraordinary Gazette has been issued by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in accordance with powers vested in him by Section 2 of the Essential Public Services Act No. 61 of 1979. The Extraordinary Gazette is effective as of the 15th of June 2021. Accordingly, 10 services have been declared as essential services, including services by the Sri Lanka Port Authority, gas, the Sri Lanka Customs, freight transport by Sri Lanka Railways and services by the Sri Lanka Transport Board, state banking and insurance services including the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, waste management and services under provincial councils. The head of the Press, Information and Development Corporation of the High Commission of India, Elders Matthew Pune, says reports pertaining to a group of Sri Lankan fishermen were attacked physically by the Indian Navy are violently false. He denied any such incident having taken place. Furthermore, he noted that the Indian Navy is a highly disciplined and professional force which discharges its responsibilities in an impeccable manner. He reiterated that India is firmly committed to addressing all fishermen-related issues between India and Sri Lanka in a humanitarian manner through established bilateral mechanisms and understandings. The National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19 Outbreaks says the Colombo district had the most COVID cases yesterday, with 562 cases. As per the centre's report, Gampaha district had 455 cases, while Kurunegala district with 234. Ratnapura recorded 217 cases, Kalutara and Gaul with 118, while Batticaloa placed next with 115 cases. 1,289 COVID patients were discharged yesterday, including 1,019 from government hospitals and 270 from private hospitals. Another 638 patients were released from 22 quarantine facilities. Meanwhile, the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health says another 57,371 individuals were administered the COVID-19 vaccine doses yesterday. Accordingly, 11,349 persons were administered the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine, while its second jab was given to 43,040 individuals. The second jab of the Russian-manufactured Sputnik V vaccine was given to 2,875 persons. The second dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine was administered to 107 individuals. A total number of 1,401,455 persons have obtained the first dose of the Chinese-manufactured Sinopharm vaccine thus far. Moreover, the second jab of the Covishield vaccine has been administered to 356,610 individuals. Moreover, the first dose of the Sputnik V vaccine has been given to a total of 64,986 persons in the country. A five-member Tamil National Alliance delegation led by R. Sambandhan, MP, called on His Excellency Gopal Bagle at the Indian House recently. Discussions on devolution and development in Sri Lanka, including in the northern and eastern provinces, were held. The Indian High Commission stressed that India's long-standing support for the reconciliation in Sri Lanka that addresses aspirations of the Tamil community for equality, justice, peace and dignity within the framework of a united Sri Lanka. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Now, EPF information and services through an SMS from HDFC Bank.
Continuing local news, the National Election Commission is scheduled to issue an extraordinary Gazette notification today declaring leader of the United National Party Ranil Wickremesinghe as a Member of Parliament. The development comes after UNP General Secretary Palitha Rangebandara on Wednesday notified the Election Commission that the party has decided to nominate former Prime Minister Wickremesinghe for the National List seat. The former Premier is scheduled to be named in several special purpose parliamentary committees in the upcoming weeks. The police spokesman, DIG Ajit Rohana, said in a statement that the police have arrested 1,390 more individuals yesterday for failing to adhere to health protocols and quarantine regulations. According to the police spokesman, 172 of the arrests were made by the Kuliapitiya police, 133 by Matale police and 121 by Kandy police. Meanwhile, DIG Rohana added that the Sri Lanka police is planning to carry out a special operation during this weekend by implementing mobile patrols, roadblocks and motorcycle patrols. Further, drone operations are expected to be conducted in Colombo and suburban areas to identify individuals who flout quarantine rules and regulations. Sri Lankan Navy, during a special search operation conducted in the beach area of Karampin Heights, seized Kerala cannabis weighing 130 kilograms and 760 grams and a dinghy. The Navy has stepped up patrols in the island waters to crack down on a wide range of illegal activities, including trafficking of drugs by sea. Meanwhile, the street value of the seized consignment of Kerala cannabis is believed to be over 39 million rupees. With that, we conclude the local news. Next up, it's the main news story.
දැන් HDFC බැංකුවෙන් EPF ණයතොරතුරු හා සේවාවන් SMS එකකින්
රාජ්‍ය හා පෞද්ගලිකංශයේ රැකියාවේ නියුතු ඔබ කොහේ සිටියත් EPF ණයතොරතුරු හා සේවාවන් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා කළ යුත්තේ EPF හිස්තැනක් නම හා ප්‍රදේශය සඳහන් කර 071 800 999ට SMS එකක් එවීම පමණයි.
HDFC බැංකුව ඔබ අප සුරකින්න බැංකුව.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Sri Lanka Navy has cleared 1,500 tons of debris washed ashore from the fire-stricken Express Pearl vessel. The Navy, in a statement, said the debris collected from the Uspetekeyava, Elenagoda and Sarakua and Kepuangoda beaches were handed over to the Marine Environment Protection Authority. It added the Navy, along with other stakeholders, are continuing the beach cleaning efforts, which began on 26th of May. That was our main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Taking a look at Watchlight, the police have requested the public to remain cautious of phone calls by individuals impersonating officers of the Terrorist Investigation Division or the Criminal Investigations Department. The police headquarters said it has uncovered details pertaining to incidents where individuals request to deposit cash to a designated bank account to avoid recording statements. That came to you in Watchlight. Next up, it's a bulletin of world news. The headlines of the world news. The global COVID-19 death toll exceeds 4 million. The North Korean leader prepares for dialogue and confrontation with the US. Zambia's founding president, Kenneth Kaunda, passes away. The world news now in detail. Coronavirus-related deaths worldwide passed a grim milestone of 4 million, according to a Reuters tally, as many countries struggle to procure enough vaccine to inoculate their populations. While the numbers of new cases and deaths have abated in countries like the United States and Britain, several nations have vaccine shortages as the Delta variant becomes the dominant strain around the world. The top 5 countries by total number of deaths, the United States, Brazil, India, Russia, and Mexico, represent about 50% of all deaths in the world, while Peru, Hungary, Bosnia and Czech Republic and Gibraltar have the highest death rates when adjusted for population. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said his country needs to prepare for both dialogue and confrontation with the US, and especially to get fully prepared for confrontation. North Korea had earlier snubbed efforts by President Joe Biden's administration to establish diplomatic communication. This marks the first time Mr. Kim has directly commented on Mr. Biden's administration. Mr. Kim was speaking at a meeting of senior leaders in Pyongyang. Kenneth Kaunda, Zambia's founding president and liberation hero, has died at a military hospital in the capital, Lusaka, where he was being treated for pneumonia. He was 97. Kaunda ruled Zambia from 1964, when the southern African nation won its independence from Britain, until 1991, and afterwards became one of the most committed activists against HIV/AIDS in Africa. With that, we conclude the world news. Prior to concluding, the headlines of the world news once again. The global COVID-19 death toll exceeds 4 million. The North Korean leader prepares for dialogue and confrontation with the US. Zambia's founding president, Kenneth Kaunda, passes away. With that, we conclude the world news. Next up, it's the development news. Taking a look at the development news. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation signed a memorandum of understanding recently with the Hambantota International Port Group to develop Hambantota Port as a strategic energy center in Sri Lanka. A separate storage terminal with associated facilities for both domestic and export purposes connected to the port via a pipeline is to be established by CPC about 15 kilometers away from the port. CPC, the state entity which provides the majority of petroleum products to local consumers, has identified a land area of approximately 50 acres owned by Sri Lanka Mahaweli Authority for the project. The new facility is expected to expand storage and bulk distribution facilities of CPC. That ends development news. Next up is the sports news. Taking a look at the sports news, first is cricket. New Zealand captain Kane Williamson knows better than most that almost anything can indeed happen on a cricket field. Now the Black Caps, 2 years on from their acknowledging World Cup final defeat, meet all-powerful India as the two sides play for cricketing history. Over the next 5 possible 6 days in Southampton, one of the two nations will be crowned the first Test world champions. Though doubters remain, the inaugural COVID-19 hit edition of the World Test Championship has served up an intriguing showpiece final featuring the two standout men's test teams, each packed with world-class talent. Next, it's tennis. The world number 3 Rafael Nadal has pulled out of his month's Wimbledon and the Tokyo Olympic Games. The 20-time Grand Slam champion who won the Wimbledon titles in 2008 and 10 says he needs to recuperate after a long clay court season. Meanwhile, tennis star Naomi Osaka has withdrawn from this year's Wimbledon, but is planning on returning at the Tokyo Olympics, according to her agent Stuart Digweed. In May, Osaka withdrew from the French Open after being fined $15,000 for refusing to speak to the media at Roland Garros. That ends sports news. Next up, it's the business news.
Contributory deposit of ₹1,000 from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Sri Lanka's pioneering state-owned financial institution, People's Leasing and Finance plc, celebrated its 25th anniversary on 31st May 2021. Ensuring ease of transactions to customers, People's Leasing has relaunched their trilingual corporate website virtually at the Ministry of Finance. Speaking at the virtual launch, the State Minister added that PLC is always taking initiatives to do things differently by making better use of the technological channels available in the digital world. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of ₹1,000 from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, addressing the Invest Sri Lanka Investor Forum held recently, invited investors to invest in Colombo Port City and in a range of sectors from energy, information to agro-industries. Thus, Colombo Bows commenced the week in green whilst continued its positive sentiment yesterday. Hence, the all-share price index gained 24.5 points to close at 7,591.9. Enticed by local investor interests, further S&P Sri Lanka 20 index also rose by 8.7 points to close the day at 3,051.1. That ends Economic News.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
Finally, it's a look at the weather report. The Met Department forecasts showers in the western, central, Sabaragamu and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. It says mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere. The Met Department further predicts wind speed of up to 30 to 40 kilometers in the western slope of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. Furthermore, the Met Department cautions that wind speeds can increase up to 50 kilometers at times in these areas. That was the weather report.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. The government issues a new Gazette Extraordinary on essential services. The High Commission of India denies reported attacks on a group of Sri Lankan fishermen by the Indian Navy. Highest number of infections found in Colombo yesterday amidst a vaccination drive. The Sri Lankan Navy clears debris washed ashore from the stricken Express Pearl vessel. The Indian High Commissioner meets Tamil National Alliance delegation. The Gazette Declaration, the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as an MP to be issued shortly. With that, we conclude the news.